Share with me now the prayer of approach. We call upon you, O Creator, to bless all men and women who toil to build and warm our homes, who fashioned our clothes and wrestled from sea and land the food that nourishes us and our children. May we not knowingly inflict suffering through selfish indifference or the willful ignorance of a callous heart. Grant us wisdom that we may deal gently with one another. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I'm going to tell you a little story from a book called Garden Clubs and Spades by Lawrence McKinney, first printed in 1941, when you and I would be just youngsters. This is one that I hope you will enjoy. A garden hose in its original state may be defined as a small body of water completely surrounded by rubber. The game consists in trying to keep most of the water inside the rubber, and if it does get out, of guessing where it is going to go. To start properly, all you need is the hose and the small body of water. Clothes do not matter. In fact, the less there are of them, the less they matter. Go to the nearest hose store and buy a length of hose. Always be sure that the hose is considerably shorter than the garden. This saves a lot of reeling around and gives us one practice in high-angle fire on the bunch of hollyhocks which are just out of range against the farthest fence. If you get the right kind of hose, it will have a muzzle or nozzle on one end and a funny doohickey on the other that turns around and around and around. Be careful to specify garden hose and do not pick what is known as gas tubing. This latter is used only for suicides and you will not need it immediately. Instead of selling you a diver's costume for protection, the hose sales fellow will now try to interest you in a hose reel. This is a sort of hose baby carriage which protects it when resting and allows you to get it back into its stall without dragging most of the garden and the garden bench with you. Having got the hose and the hose reel, you now have the choice of tooling it home through traffic or having it sent. That is for you to decide. In your imagination, you picture the happy husband and garden lover hosing his garden. A smiling wife stands beside him while about him play the innocent children. It is just as well to keep this picture in your mind as you hose. Anywhere else it would get awfully wet. We will assume that in the course of time the hose and reel arrive and are put into the garden. First, find a hose bib. This is not what you think it is or what it ought to be, but is merely a name for a spigot to fasten the incoming end of the hose to. In the modern house, it is under the living room window, in the center of a nettle patch. In the older houses, it is at the kitchen sink, and the hose has to be threaded through the kitchen, the furnace room, the pantry, and the laundry room. This usually leaves just enough on the outside of the house to allow you, with your back against the wall, to shoot from the hip. Take the doohickey on the end of the hose and try to fasten it to the faucet, hose bib. And after some reluctance, it will set its front teeth in and hold on. Turn the water on full force. The hose will then let go with a guzzling sound. The water will run into your shoes. Turn off the water and try again. Be patient. In time, the mandibles will grip and hold the hose. As soon as this happens, turn on the water again. If the hose is working, the water will gush out the nozzle and through the open dining room window. Grab the hose by the neck behind the ears and twist the nozzle. It will desist after a while, in which time your collar is soaked. You are now prepared to assume the easy and artless position of garden hoser, which you have looked forward to. Take a natural position, one hand in your trouser pocket, light your pipe, hold the hose dangling in one hand, turn on the nozzle. Immediately a stream of water will burst forth, wash off the hat of a fond neighbour who is passing at the moment on the other side of the hedge. Disappear behind the nearest shrub and turn the nozzle the other way. You will now find yourself in the centre of a small amateur shower bath. Show yourself to be master and ride your hose until it calms down. But remember, a hose always knows who is driving it and never forgets an unkindness. In time, you will be able to do all sorts of fanciful things with a little plaything, By waving the muzzle back and forth rapidly, you can make the most intriguing watery snakes that eventually will wash away all the snapdragons. By pointing the hose directly into the air, you can imitate a summer rainstorm beautifully until your wife, who's behind the grape arbor and directly in the line of fire, tells you to stop it or she will take it away from you. Then again, you can aim at certain plants and see how near you can hit them by direct fire straight ahead, or by surprising them by a sort of anti-aircraft attack over the spirea bushes. From time to time, the water will stop running for no apparent reason. After long investigation, it has been found that this fading, so-called, is due to any or all of the following reasons. The city river has run dry. You have not paid your water taxes, and the city has tried to take it out on your garden in a mean way. Some unnecessarily cleanly person has decided to take a bath. Some dirty crook has turned off the hose bib. The doohickey has lost its bulldog grip and has fainted in the performance of duty. You have a puncture, a blowout, or an arterial hemorrhage somewhere in the hose itself. The hose, in a fit of insanity, has wound itself around the pedestal of the bird bath, and its windpipe is shut off. Or 8, you're standing on it. This leads you to the opposite emergency. When you want to shut off the hose, the natural way is to twist the trachea of the hose until it stops. Which direction this is not generally known in advance. From my own experience, I have noted the following sequence of spasms from twisting the nozzle. Long needle jet, wide fuzzy spray, which gets less and less until it becomes a long drippy spout, and then a wide-angle rainstorm. After this, the muzzle comes off in your hand, and the water runs quite naturally up into your coat sleeves if you've been foolish enough to wear a coat. Another method is to spring on the hose suddenly when it's facing the other way and twist it into a loop. To do this, one must let go its neck. As soon as the hose knows about it, it will turn on you suddenly, vent its spleen down your shirt, if you're silly enough to have one on. After you have sprayed, sprinkled, and inundated a portion of the garden, and are standing up to the differential in water, the wanderlust moves you to parts yet unwashed. You have progressed 10 feet, a slight tugging will cause you to turn, and discover that the hose has cut a circular swath through the delphiniums and snapdragons, tipping over a watering can and some potted plants, and now about to overturn the gazing ball. Also the penstock hose bib has been bent into a strangely inquiring expression. All good fun must come to an end, and after a while you decide that you are wet enough that it is time to stop. You go to the watercock hose bib, turn off the stream. You are now ready to reel up your hose on your hose reel. On looking at this piece of automotive equipment, you will find a sort of device which to catch the doohickey at the inhaling end of the hose. It is now a simple matter to wind up the creature on the spool. You will find at this point that the house has become completely waterlogged, absorbed twice its own capacity of water. It squirts this out in a reluctant way as it worms towards you along the ground, keeping the last 2 quarts to enter into the cuffs of your trousers if you were insane enough to still be wearing them. After this final outburst, the hose will remain quite quiet, and you may gently roll it into its parking space in the garage. You've done your bit. You've hosed the garden. You entered into the warmth of your home, a good deed well done. Half an hour later, a thunderstorm breaks overhead, and it rains continuously for 5 hours.